let us get into my pre-spring top 25. That is to say, we have seen some moving and shaking since I did the way too early top 25, which I quite literally put out the day after the national championship game. And we've had some things happen since then. Notably, Nick Saban retired, and that precipitated the movement of Kalen DeVore, which precipitated the movement of Jed Fish, which precipitated the movement of Brent Brennan. And now, taking a look at my top 25, you could see, if you've been paying attention to the way too early top 25, that I have a new number one, and that is the Ohio State Buckeyes. Nobody did more to help themselves in the transfer portal or with their coaching staff than Ryan Day and the Ohio State Buckeyes. We could start with getting the most prized player in the transfer portal to commit and come to Ohio State. That would be safety Caleb Downs, who I genuinely believe is the best defensive back in football. He's going to join a defense that is stacked on defensive line. It's probably going to have CJ Hicks and Cody Simon at linebacker, and got three guys at safety, depending on how you want to feel about Sonny Styles, that could do the job. But either way, it really helps that defense that was the strength of Ohio State in 2023, but also gives some cushion to the Ohio State offense in 2024. Now, offensively, I think we got to start with there are four quarterbacks at Ohio State that could start, right? You have the incumbent in Devin Brown. You have a grad transfer and former Big 12 champion Kansas State quarterback, Will Howard, and you have two exceptionally talented freshmen in Aaron Nolan and Julian Sayin, right? That's one position. Now, at running back, you get to add Quinshon Judkins, who had one of the best freshman seasons I've seen from a tailback in a long time in the SEC at Ole Miss, choosing to transfer to Ohio State. And then you're still stacked on the outside, because while they're losing Marvin Harrison Jr. and Julian Fleming decided to go to Penn State and Noah Rogers decided to go to North Carolina State, they're still really, really great over there at wide receiver. Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, buoyed by the guy that's probably going to be the straw stirring the drink. That is Emeka Egbuka. And then Ryan Day, truly becoming a CEO head coach, handing the play calling privileges to former UCLA coach and his former head coach, Chip Kelly. Given what Chip Kelly has shown himself capable of doing, not just at UCLA, but obviously at Oregon and in the NFL, I am really interested to see just how quickly he can get that offense up and running, because it was not the kind of offense that we have come to see from Ryan Day and the Buckeyes since he first joined as the offensive play caller there some 7 years ago. Now, I think there's a lot that we could discuss here in as far as what I expect from Ohio State, but this is a roster that is not just built to make a run at the Big Ten title. It is built to beat Michigan on November 30th and then try to win the first national championship under Ryan Day. School history as we are getting into the extended college football playoffs. So that's the new number one. I don't think I've told you as to why I think they are. Now, we're going to go quickly. Georgia 2, Texas 3, Oregon 4, and then Michigan at 5. Michigan is getting the benefit of the doubt from me because, frankly, when I haven't given them the benefit of the doubt, they have shown themselves to be more than capable. They're coming off 15-0. Winning the Big Ten championship, winning a national championship. Sharon Moore comes over to be the head coach. I say comes over. He moves over, right? Takes a step to the right to assume the head job. But it is a big job for Sharon Moore. Look, it's one thing for you to be the guy that everybody wants to get the job. And having been the interim head coach for 4 wins last year, there's no doubt about what he can do as a head coach. But that was with the staff and the players that Jim Harbaugh recruited to the Michigan Wolverines. The entire defensive staff from last year is gone, okay? That's one. 2 is you promoted Kurt Campbell. That's great, right? From quarterbacks coach to OC. And I think you're going to be okay in the backfield with Donovan Edwards. But there is no Blake Corum. There is no Roman Wilson. And most importantly, there is no J.J. McCarthy, who was probably the most underused part of that offense that they ran in Michigan, because that's the nature of the offense, what kind of talent he is. And we'll talk about what kind of talent he is in our NFL Combine segment. But I think 5 is conservative, conservative. It's not aggressive. It's conservative, given what Michigan did in the past and what Sharon Moore is responsible for in his first year as head coach, notably trying to repeat as national champions. Also add in here they've got a schedule that is among 3 or 4 best, or I should say toughest, best for me, toughest for them in the country, where they're going to play Ohio State in Columbus, USC, Oregon, and Texas all this season. The cupcake schedule on the non-conference is gone. All right. We're going to get the full dough from Michigan for the first time in a long time. 6, I got Ole Miss. 7, Florida State. I realize that some folks are a little bit lower on Florida State, but I think that's because a lot of folks weren't paying attention to what Mike Norvell did in the transfer portal. He responded to a regular season 12-0, winning the ACC title to go 13-0, and then being left out of the college football playoff because his quarterback was hurt, by going back into the portal and getting an outstanding, talented quarterback in DJ Uiagalelei, who is going to be on his 3rd team in 3 years. And I think that there's a lot of untapped potential there. I think that DJ Uiagalelei can be the kind of 5-star that we all envisioned him to be when he came to college, like Bryce Young, right? 6'5", 250, got a cannon for an arm, get him to make better decisions to be okay. On top of that, I understand Jaheim Bell is gone. Keon Coleman is gone, right? I get that part, but it's not as if Mike Norvell was sitting on his laurels. He went into the transfer portal and pulled out basically the SEC, right? Georgia linebacker Marvin Jones Jr., and then former Alabama players Sean Murphy, Terrence Ferguson, Earl Little, Roydell Williams, and Malik Benson, who's the number 1 JUCO prospect in the country, who was going to go to Bama, ends up going to Florida State. I think Florida State is looking like they want to try to run this back, and this time, there are 12 teams that get into the college football playoff and not just 4. And I think they're going to do this with a chip on their shoulder because they are the only team in history who is aggrieved with good reason for not being in a 4-team playoff where they were undefeated with a Power 5 championship. I expect them to play like that, and I would really be interested to see what Roydell Williams, running back transferring from Alabama, can do in this offense. I just like what I've seen from them, so I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt as well. Number 8, I got Missouri, who has done more to make the SEC the competitive conference it is alongside Kentucky than anybody else. That Cotton Bowl win against Ohio State, even though it ain't the Ohio State we saw before, right? Missouri don't care, right? That's a big win for them. Eli Drinkwitz goes into the portal, pulls out Marcus Carroll. I really love him. 1,350 yards rushing at Georgia State. He's going to try to do what Cody Schrader was capable of doing at Missouri, and he's got to replace defensive coordinator Blake Baker. We'll talk about that, but I think that Missouri feels like they're going to be gunning for a playoff spot, maybe as an at-large team, or dare I say, the SEC championship. Number 9, I got LSU. They had the best scoring offense in the country, but they needed to. They couldn't stop nobody. Jaden Daniels is gone. Malik Neighbors is gone. Brian Thomas Jr. is gone. Garrett Nussmeier could sling it. I have no reservations about saying that, but can they stop people defensively? Hence Blake Baker, right? You got to be able to put a lid on your end zone if you expect to contend for an SEC championship. Number 10, Penn State. They're still trying to break through that glass ceiling that is Ohio State, that is Penn State, that is into the upper echelon of the Big Ten as a team that can win the Big Ten, right? For another year, we saw James Franklin usher Mike Yurcich out, right? Bring in Andy Kotelnicki, which I think is an inspired choice. Great things he did at Kansas. And then Tom Allen, who was at Indiana, great defensive coordinator. They're going to have to rebuild on that side. No Kalen King, no Johnny Dixon, no Chop Robinson. But Tom Allen knows from defense. Drew Aller needs to take a step forward for me. Like, it doesn't matter to me that you got Julian Fleming if you can't get him the rock. Still going to be an offense that runs through Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, but you understand my point here, right? You got to be able to sling it against the better teams in the Big Ten, as it's going to be as competitive as it's ever been. If you like what you've seen, consider subscribing to the #1 college football show on YouTube, the Fox Sports app, or wherever you get your podcast.